Good day, folks. Everything new under the sun. This is going to be a bit of a rambly conversation about battery storage versus the number of solar panels, the power that you have to recharge the batteries, and your usage. Now, this is Solar Assistant. This is a Raspberry Pi based piece of software which does all your solar logging for you. Which means that your data is not going to China, not being stored on the cloud, as it were. It's being stored on an SD card on your Raspberry Pi that is running this Solar Assistant software as the operating system. So I highly recommend it. I'm not a fan of the cloud-based stuff because if you're not connected to the grid, if your internet goes down, you may not have access to that. And of course, other people control your data. So this is kind of the best way to keep it in-house. Now, what I want to talk about is this idea of how much solar you should have versus your battery storage. Now, this is my graph. So the yellow there is the sun. The blue is the load. And the red is the charging coming in from the grid. So during the night, you can see right there that my battery isn't, I don't have enough battery storage to continue through the night without using grid power to recharge. So if I go back to, let me zoom out again. If I go back to this past day, you'll see this section here, which is the incoming solar for the day. And you can see a nice arc starting there where the panels are basically producing as much as they possibly can with the available sunlight. But you'll notice this strange thing happen at about 1:30, 2 o'clock. Looks like it actually happens at 2 o'clock exactly, where my solar drops off, and that's not because the solar panels broke or something. You can see that the solar is just keeping up with my load, so the solar is just above the blue load bars, and that really up and down spiky load graph line shows what happens to be a dehumidifier, which is it takes about 1,000 watts, and that's why it's spiking up and down. It's a really erratic sort of load, and most of my household load isn't as erratic as that, but that's what you see it doing. So at this point, if you'll notice, if I scroll down, you'll notice that this is the battery state of charge. You'll notice that it peaks out at about 2 o'clock. At 2 o'clock, it's 100% state of charge. You can see that there. And it's 100% state of charge throughout the day until the sun goes down, and then it starts dropping off as the battery is used. 94%, 93%, 91% state of charge. So likewise in the graphs below, you can see the PV voltage and the battery voltage. Oops, I scrolled down too far there. Let's go there. You can see the battery voltage is maxed out at about 56 volts. So basically, that's the point in time when my storage is absolutely full. I can't store anymore. So that means the incoming solar that could be generated is not generated, because then it's just maintaining the load or powering the load. So this is bad, because basically at the midpoint of the day, 2 o'clock, on a nice sunny day when there's should be lots of solar, my solar panels are not being used anymore. They're being wasted at that point. So all that money I had invested in those solar panels is now being wasted because there's nowhere for the power to go. Now, in your grid connected system, the grid acts like a unlimited storage system, an unlimited battery. So you would have a nice arc all the way through the day, right until it trails off at about, in this case, about 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock at the end of the day there. All of that power would go to the grid. It would be consumed by other households and, near me, etc., wherever it goes. And it would count towards your credit because that's over and above the blue line there, which is my load showing. So that's excess solar. That the solar that I'm not using would go to the grid. But I'm not grid tied, I'm off grid. So in an off grid system, you need a battery. Something to act as the storage, obviously, when the grid is not connected there. And batteries are very expensive, so you generally want to only buy as many batteries as you need, because again, they cost far more than the solar panels, and last much less time potentially than the solar panels. The solar panels will go 25, 30, probably 40 years, and you can just leave them. And for the cost of solar panels, it's pretty cheap. But if you're trying to make it through the night or through a couple of cloudy days, you need some storage. Again, you'll notice if I scroll out of this graph, you'll see that I'm not even making it through a 24-hour period, because that really erratic dehumidifier is there, and it consumes all my battery to the point where in the middle of the night it has to charge. That's those red spikes there. And then it runs off battery again, and then it has to charge off grid again until the solar starts coming up in the morning again. And so that flat line there is just up until the current where the readings haven't been collected. So this is a problem. So I need a battery that can last through that. Now that ends up being about, I've got a 5 kilowatt battery. It ends up being about 10 or 15 kilowatt hours. That would be enough to kind of make it through for me to the next time the sun comes up in the morning. And so I intend on doing that. But this is a situation where you have these panels, you're not utilizing them because the battery storage is full and they're only keeping up with the load. And so it's a constant battle and balancing act to have enough battery storage to last you through the night, or through however many days you want to get through in terms of a cloudy day, or a natural disaster that goes through and takes out the grid. But you also need enough solar panels to charge up those batteries when you do get that one day of sun, and then you go back into, say, rainy, cloudy days where you're not able to do it. So you're always increasing your battery storage to get through that extra couple of hours, or 24 hours, and then enough solar to recharge it completely when you do finally get your sun. So in this case, in terms of an off-grid critical load situation, a 15 kilowatt battery would probably last me a couple of days and give me at least a day where I didn't have any sun, or it was cloudy or rainy, enough to power me through until the sun came out again. Whereas the way it's currently running, powering my whole house right now, it's only good to get through the night for all loads, not just critical loads. So the critical loads would be my fridge and my freezer. Basically, that's it. And maybe the well pump throughout the day every once in a while. So this is an ongoing battle, and the cost of battery storage is so much that you really just want the minimum amount to get you through, in my case, the night until the sun comes up. And that doesn't account for cloudy days where it will draw from the grid, the one way there. So it's a constant battle of more battery, more storage, but then you need more solar, and then once you have enough solar, then you need more storage again, because you have these situations where it is kind of just lopping off half the day because it's got nowhere to put all that energy. So that's kind of a rambly conversation of how much battery storage do you need versus how many solar panels. It all depends what your end goal is, and is your storage enough for a grid down situation, emergency situation where you need to power critical loads? That's what I would calculate and aim your battery storage at least, say, 24 or 36 hours of battery storage for critical loads only. And then during normal times, that's only going to last the night, maybe a day and a half for your general household loads. But at least when the system goes down, the grid goes down, whatever, you do have a critical loads functionality, for 2, 3, 4 days, whatever it may be. And also the key for me is really the payback. So I'm not necessarily considering grid down, but what I do want to do is have enough storage to continue to collect that solar through the day, so it's stored up and acts as a credit, per se, in my storage system, so that I can get through the night without having to resort to the grid, which comes on and does take a chunk out, and I have to pay for that, obviously. So that's really what I want to cover to make maximum use of my solar array. and as it exists right now. And going forward, if I find that my solar isn't charging the storage up fast enough within the day, then that's why when you add a couple more solar panels to your array or a new array, etc. And solar panels, relatively, compared to storage, are kind of dirt cheap. You can get another kilowatt for less than $1,000 Canadian, a fair bit less. Yeah, a lot less. For about $500, you should be able to get, about a kilowatt of solar. So that's cheap and easy to add, but adding your storage is always kind of the difficult part. So let me know how you kind of manage that storage versus solar in the comments below. Is there an exact way to do it? No, everybody has their own needs and purposes and, critical load requirements. So it's going to be a very personal decision about how much money do you have, how much do you want to, do you want to maximize your return on investment, or are you simply setting the system up for a grid down scenario where, the payback return on investment isn't as critical? In this case, I kind of want to match it up to where I can recharge the whole battery in a day, and also get through the night on the storage. That's my ideal. That assumes every day is sunny, but for my purposes, that kind of maximizes the return on investment, limits my investment in storage, and maximizes the use of those solar panels so that throughout the day they're collecting 100% of their power and putting it, and they're able to put it somewhere throughout the day, and not having this solar cutoff where all of a sudden you're just not using the sun at all for a significant portion of the day. This to me is wasting power, and so I want somewhere to put that. So some thoughts there for you folks. Let me know in the comments what you think, and I definitely suggest Solar Assistant, a great tool to have for local logging. Thanks for watching. I'll leave it there, and we'll see you in the next video.